Welcome to the Creative Island Podcast,
a show aimed at helping creative individuals transform their passion into profession.
Each episode will share powerful strategies, tips, and practical tools to empower you to create the income, the lifestyle, and the legacy you were designed for.
We are your hosts, Adam Bowman
and Jason Pepper.
Enjoy the show.
Like, did you read? Do you read, pick up books and stuff?
I don't read. I'm going to leave this in. I don't read at all. I mean, I should read, but... Creative Island Podcast, Episode 4. Your host, Adam Bowman, joined with our resident co-host, Jason Pepper. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. I'm good. How you guys doing?
Good. This is great. Another beautiful day up on the lakeshore. Couldn't ask for a better day to podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Totally, man. It's such a Canadian thing to confront the weather.
Yeah, I know. In mid-February, just
it's like
the sun's out. Oh my God.
Dry and hostile in Toronto, Canada.
Yeah, bro.
Windy and snowy.
It's one of those days you look at your hands and they're not peeling and you're like, this is a blessed day.
I know, right?
Anyways, dude, what are we talking about today? What's the topic for today's Creative Island Podcast?
Well, we were talking before the podcast about personal development and kind of my journey in personal development. And then Adam was looking to grow himself. And I mean, personal development is just a matter of like learning and taking yourself and your business or yourself and your art or whatever to the next level. And so we're going to talk about that today.
Beautiful. I need that. I need it. And I think someone coming from and hearing it from you, I think it's going to hit home with me and a lot of people listening as well.
Yeah, man. Well, let's get right into it. So like personal development, everyone's like, oh man, what is that? And, really personal development is just investing in yourself. And you've all heard, well, investing in yourself is the best investment you can make. But it's true because what it does is it expedites the evolutionary process through learning.
Yeah.
So, when you're like a little kid and you're like, thinking of monsters under your bed, as you learn and evolve and you get smarter and you accumulate more information, you realize, okay, monsters actually don't exist under my bed. And your depiction of reality gets more true to reality.
Interesting. Okay.
Like you have.
I like that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what personal development is. It's like you're like expediting that whole process of like evolving through learning.
And I also don't I think when you say, sort of dropping, it doesn't necessarily need to be a monetary, like exchange that you're doing for personal development. It can be in other ways, right?
Yeah. Like it doesn't have to be a financial commitment. Like you don't need to pay all the time to learn. Sometimes learning comes in all kinds of ways, but I think that when you understand kind of what I'm about to say about personal development, you're not thinking about the money anymore as much. Because people get all freaked out. Like I've bought programs, I bought courses, I bought books, I've got free mentorship. And out of all of that, I realized that like really the cost in versus the return on investments, like it's not even a thing to think about.
Okay, interesting.
You shouldn't be worried about the price. But
and I think it'd be good to go on actually at the end as well, just sort of like some red flags. I know there's a lot of self-development classes that people sell, but I think it'd also be cool to pinpoint the red flags of things that just to stay away from, that's just a cash grab for someone or whatever. Because I know I watch a 30-second video and I'm ready to change my life and like go skydiving and go trips to Bali. But like, you know what I mean? That's not necessarily what you want in personal growth, but let's get right into it, dude.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'll share some tips on what I did to navigate that minefield. Cause there is just a lot of shit out there.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of everything. So you got to know what. So our world is full of like facades and fantasies and, smoke and mirrors that we've sort of adopted from our parents, preachers, and teachers, right? The people in our life kind of tell us things about how the world is, only to find out like, hey guys, sorry to break your bubble, but Santa Claus doesn't exist, like those things. But as you learn more about the world, you learn more about, real truths and less about false truths. And personal development, like I said, is like the expediting of that process. You want to get to the end result. You want to get to the real truth faster, and you want to just get away from those false truths that you're kind of carrying around about, about money, about people, about like taxes, or about like anything. It doesn't matter. There's so many lanes that you can go down. So basically, when you learn something new, the reason learning's so important is because when you learn something new, your behavior changes. And when you learn something new and your behavior changes, you start getting a different result. So like learning is like personal development work and learning compounds way faster than any other investment you can make ever.
Wow.
Because as soon as your behavior changes, you get a new result.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
Like, a good example is like I went to this seminar one time, and the guy's close in the seminar was like, he called it the ignorant tax.
Okay.
And he's like, you guys heard of the ignorant tax? And we're like, what the hell's the ignorant tax? And he's basically like, okay, if for every year you're not making, let's say $1 million is your income goal, every year you don't make $1 million, you're paying an ignorant tax of, if you're making $100,000 a year, you're paying an ignorant tax of $900,000 every year.
Wow.
But the reason you're not making that has more to do with your understanding of true reality and the real way the world works than it has to do with anything else.
Okay.
So the faster you can get the information and the knowledge and the, to get to that level, you can, you'd pay any price to get there.
Yeah, totally.
Like if I told you tomorrow that like I could give you a stack of books and 5 or 6 programs that would give you all the understanding information about reality or about your business or about your situation to bridge the gap between where you are now to like $1 million a year, you'd pay any number.
Take my money. Take my money, dude. Yeah.
Because you'd make $1 million at the end of the year,
Yeah.
right? So like if it costs you $200,000, you'd be like, I don't care because I know the return on investment's like whatever.
Yeah, and it pays dividends in the end anyways. And then, it just becomes reciprocal too, because then like once you get that knowledge, you could start transferring that again and then monetize the knowledge that you gained as well. So it just becomes more worth its weight than gold in the end, right? Like just in that way where you go to learn and then you earn. Like that's the old adage.
Yeah, it's like that old
learning
saying,
to earning.
But it's a true thing. It's because if you actually learn something, your behavior changes. Mm-hmm. And then when your behavior changes, your results change.
Yeah.
But if you learn something or if you read something and your behavior doesn't change, you didn't learn anything. Mm-hmm. So it's not a personal development. It's a nothing. It's a zero-sum game.
That's a good point, because it's like even if in like the sort of the face value of it, you pay to go get your education, like post-secondary or even secondary. And it's like, let's say you're going to be like, for me, film school. If I didn't change my attitude around filmmaking and did the same things, like same attitudes I brought in from high school, and I was the same person now after 4 years, it'd be all a waste of time and wouldn't have learned anything. I'd be playing video games right now. I would not be here with you.
Totally. I mean? No, but that's that evolutionary process, right? So you gained a bunch of information. You got new truths about reality. You let go of false truths that you held on to earlier in your life. And that changed your behavior, which got you a different result. So that's the idea of personal development, is you want to learn new truths about the world, right? The truth about money. You don't want to learn some bullshit false truth that's not helping you. Like if you're broke, it's because you don't have a good reality of money. Like you don't understand what money is, and you've got some false truths there. Like, oh, I'm not, money's not for me, or oh, no one in my family has a ton of money, so it's not for me, or like some bullshit excuse, like some untruth that you're holding on to. So.
And I think that goes to show just what you're speaking on is like people stuck in that rut of life and just like that groove of ice skating, you dig deeper and deeper with every like sort of skate. And it's just like, if you sort of do the things you're talking about, going to seminars, taking classes, you can kind of learn how to get out of that groove and start a new lane that just finds financial freedom or even just happiness, I think, for a lot of people. Because if you find happiness, you can find everything you're looking for after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. So that's kind of I like the ignorant tax, but that's what it is. So people always ask me, like, how much should I spend on personal development? Like, what's a good amount? It's like, well, it depends.
Yeah.
Like, if you're making $1 million and your goal is to make, $1.1 million, like there's $100,000 difference, then you're probably not willing to spend that much because it's not a whole lot of a gain for you. But if you're only making $50,000 a year and your goal is to make $1 million, a
lot of room for improvement.
There's a lot of room for improvement. Yeah. And so you should start taking and like, what should I take? Like, what programs should I take? Try them all.
Yeah.
Like, just do everything. If you think something's helpful or beneficial or something that grabs your interest, you're going to learn something from it. And it's going to help you change your behavior if you actually learn and move forward. But
that's beautiful.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I love that. Anything else on there too?
Yeah. So
I just want to eat this up, dude.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Like I said before, I'm gonna keep the soundboard in. I don't read a lot. I haven't sort of put that like into my life in terms of just like making myself read every day. Yeah. So that's why I enjoy coming here, because you got the knowledge of kings, and like I just want to come in here and eat it all up for free. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think it's it's just like anyways, we'll talk about reading in a bit because I think that's a
Yeah.
really, like, you don't have to buy programs. I've paid for coaching programs.
Yeah.
I paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like tens of thousands of dollars for coaching. And more. I've probably spent, I'm getting close to the 6-figure mark maybe on personal development. Between books and programs and
Yeah.
courses and mentorships and flying away to retreats or masterminds.
Yeah.
Like when you start adding all that up, that's all personal development work, right? But then if you look at the return on investment, like if I took all the dollars and cents that I spent on, all my personal development work and I put it in like, the S&P 500 or just like an index fund
Yeah.
or whatever, like the return on that money is like not even in the same world, like when it comes to like,
Yeah, it's not even the same bracket of competition at all. Yeah.
And
no,
nobody
for sure.
can take what you learn away from you. That's
Yeah.
that's why it's the best investment you can make, because skills make you money, but you learn skills through personal development.
I love that. Dude, you're hitting home runs today, dude. I love this.
No, man,
Let's go.
That's all that. So reading is another thing. So reading's probably like the most cost-effective like personal development tool. And I think in like 2017, I read like 50 books a year. I read a lot of books, but I read 50 that year, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get on top of this reading thing, and I'm just gonna figure out what all the hype's about. And well, I realized a couple of things. One, there are good books and there are bad books.
That's a great point.
And just because somebody writes a book doesn't mean you should read it or finish it, because modern authors actually have like a totally different incentive than sort of more historic, like the more classic books. Like a modern author is usually, has an intention of like selling you something or promoting or self-promotion or something like that. And it's less about transcending good knowledge from generation to generation.
It's that monetization that's really heavily associated with it, right? And just like the press kit and getting it sold, I think,
Totally.
Yeah.
And what they're really doing is taking a little piece of a classic book and sort of regurgitating the same information. So it's like watered down, it's less authentic, and they're just trying to like, they're trying to, it's self-promotion really.
Yeah, and like one of my good homies always says, we always have this debate about original thought and original art, and it's just like, and I love the idea of being able to create original art and original films, original music, and original, literature. But now in 2023, it's hard to be original, and it's taking, whether it's like fiction, it's the hero's journey, well, it's just about self-development or whatever, it's taken transcending from other greats like authors and whatnot. So it's totally a different, like you're saying, it's totally different sort of mindset behind the whole sort of literature in itself, right? And it just kind of sucks because I will really love to think that it's original thought, but it's coming from a different place. It's just sort of the evolution of it, if you will.
Yeah, totally. So I would say like reading's really good. If you don't have a ton of money for a big program or to reach out to a mentor. We can talk about how to get mentors too, because I think that's a really important component.
Yeah.
But reading specifically, find the classic books. Like I read 50 books that year, but what I learned is like if I just took the top 5 and read them 5 times, I'd be way better off than reading all of them once.
Okay.
Because you don't get enough from reading a book once.
Okay.
You pick up a lot of stuff, but it takes you like I've read like, Think and Grow Rich, or like How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. Like that book I've probably read like 5 times.
Wow.
But I'll continue to read it, because if you just read that one book for the rest of your life, you will be successful.
And then each time you go out reading it, do you have a different lens when you're going in to read it, or do you sort of just take it for face value each time?
No, I find if you just reread it with not a whole lot of expectations, you want to be interested in learning the content, but every time you read it, you find something you missed the last time you read it. So, and it takes a long time, especially a book like those books are heavy hitters. So you got to go through slowly and carefully, and you got to reread it a few times to get to kind of get all the goods out of it.
Well, it makes sense because I always articulate things from World of Film, and it's like for me the best films ever you got to watch a couple times. It's just for the same reason. You watch it once, and it's sort of that indoctrination into that world or whatever. But then you watch it a couple more times, you learn more things, you pick up different cues. I guess it's the same goes for literature, even music in that way, right? Where it's just like you have a different lens, or it's a couple of years down the line, so you have more knowledge, so you learn, you take different things, you feel different things. If you have a family, you start learning different, like, you know what I mean, than being like the single life. So I think that really speaks to me just through film, but I definitely need to start applying that to books. Even audiobooks, I think, is a good thing that I might get into, because I listen to a lot of podcasts. So it's the same thing. It's just a different way of getting the material. But I do think there's like a study that says reading it, you grasp more than just hearing it, because it's sort of like the dictation of it doesn't really ingrain itself as you actually reading it to yourself alone in your own space, so to speak, you know?
Yeah. And I think like audiobooks are great. Like podcasts are great. Audiobooks are great. And I think whatever works for you to retain and learn the information.
Yeah.
The only way you know you learn it is if your behavior changes. That's how you know you learned it. So if you can read stuff all the time, if your behavior doesn't change, you just wasted a bunch of time. You didn't actually learn the lessons of the book.
Totally.
Or you're not reading good quality books.
Totally.
So that's what and I've got a book list. Maybe I can send it out in a newsletter or
That'd
something.
be great for a blog for sure. Just a book list. Cause I need them. Cause for me, like I love fiction, but I think I just need to start transitioning more into nonfiction and just sort of like getting that knowledge. Cause it's like, I like a lot of comedy type writers like Christopher Moore, where it's like super surreal and you know what I mean? But it's like at the same time, you get the dopamine rush and the serotonin rush of just reading a great story. But at the same, it doesn't necessarily leave you with the knowledge from some of the books that you're reading where it's like rooted in personal development and growth, right?
Yeah, like your behavior doesn't change.
Yeah,
essentially. And I've read fiction and nonfiction, and there are gains from both, but you just you have to kind of pick and choose. You want to find quality books. That's quality over quantity all the time.
And it's like where the books you're reading are more objective, where it gives you things that you can actually put into place, where it's like if I read like Old Man at the Sea, one of my favorite books by Hemingway, it's a small one, so that's why it's one of my favorites. It's easy to read. But like I took it more, all the knowledge I gained from it was more of a subjective, where it's like you sort of articulate it or sort of see it through your lens and sort of come up with your own interpretation of it and learn. So it's not necessarily as objective as some of the books you're reading, right? Which makes it kind of more like you could take something and you could read it completely wrong and do like the wrong things, you know what I mean? But whereas it's self-growth and development, I think it's a lot more objective in that way, where you learn a lot faster, or at least take key concepts more to heart than say it's some dude at sea trying to catch a marlin. You know
no, for sure. Yeah, like personal development's just, you just want to keep that evolutionary growth happening. Like you don't want it to slow. Like in high school, like in the 4 years of high school, you grow and evolve so much,
like crazy.
Then university hits, or college, or whatever, or whatever post-secondary kind of education you go through. Then you grow even more.
Yeah.
And, and all of a sudden there's these huge, massive seismic shifts in your life and in your behavior and who you are over like an 8 or 10 year period. And then things grind to a halt, and then people just don't grow anymore. And like, that's where personal development comes in and helps you just take it to a whole other level.
I like that. Yeah. Cause it's like people think you kind of get into this mindset when you're either getting some success in your career or your field or whatever, and you're sort of like plateauing and you're happy, you're content, and then you just sort of saying like, I don't need to learn anymore. I don't need anything else. This is all I need. And that's kind of where you sort of start to plateau, and things get a little scary, especially if like some financial instability happens. Like there's an illness comes up, your car breaks down, your furnace explodes. It's like if you don't have that overhead and that knowledge of just even like putting yourself above that bracket, it's just like it come crashing down pretty quick, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. So keep learning. Personal development is important. How much you spend, like spend whatever it takes to let go of all the untruths about the world that you're holding on to, so you can find the real truths, and all of a sudden your behavior and your results will all change. Like
scared money don't make money, brother.
That's it, man. Actually, a couple of questions on that. Like we'll move on to like how to find a mentor, and like, because that's part of personal development as well. But a couple of really powerful questions, because I'm a big believer in questions. What do you believe about reality now that's true? And what do you believe about reality now that's untrue? And take those questions, find it out. Is it money? Is it health? Like, what do you think you know about something that isn't true versus what you know that what can you learn? Like what untruth or false truths do you have right now that is wrong?
That's powerful.
So
that's a great question. I don't even I'm trying to think about that. I'm trying to wrap my head around it right now, and it's like I'm going to need to let that germinate for a little bit.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, but it's important, right? So, like I think I said it on the other podcast, but like wisdom is, you don't need to gain wisdom through the aging process, because that would take a really long time. Yeah. You can get wisdom today by just asking the right questions. Like questions allow us to bring unconscious information conscious. So ask questions, gain the information, have wisdom today. Don't wait till you're old and gray hair and
banging, dude.
Then you can call yourself wise.
I love that, dude.
Don't wait.
Yeah, don't wait. Why wait? You know?
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So mentors. I've had a ton of mentors, man. I've had mentors like since I was a kid in different areas, and I didn't realize they were mentors until, you know, later on you go, oh my God, they were actually mentors. Have you had mentors? What's your experience with mentors?
I'm looking at one of my mentors right now. Shout out Jason Pepper. But I think, like in that way where you just said, like, you don't necessarily know that they're mentors. I think as I said on the first podcast, I came up from an athletic background. So I think a lot of my coaches and those two, like, were mentors, and I didn't even realize. Where it's just like, even in high school, it's like you're a student athlete. It's not necessarily all about the athletes, a lot about academics as well. And you don't even realize that they're trying to shape you just to become the best person you can be, whether it's like on the field, off the field, in the classroom, at home, in your community. And you just sort of like, you think you're just learning how to tackle someone in football, but then like you get like before practice, they're saying, they're talking, spouting off their knowledge to you, and then after practice, and then like checking in on you. And like, it didn't necessarily go as well for me in the football sense, but I think I brought a lot of transferable skills from that, just from learning from mentors and how to be a good human being in the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But I think most of mine probably came from the sports world. And then as soon as, like, when I got into the arts, I sort of had a couple that, again, I didn't necessarily see, like a couple of professors that I still get coffee with and whatnot, that I don't see them as professors anymore, just mentors. And like, obviously I still see them as professors, but in the long run, I had coffee with one of my professors just before before Christmas time. And I was just like, dude, like, I'm kind of like stuck. Like, what did you do? And you just like answering questions, not necessarily giving me answers, but just giving me more questions to reflect on. Like, why do you want to grow? Why do you want to do this? Why are you looking to get to the next level? Like, what are you really looking to do? And I think that's great, because if you ask people in your own life that don't come from the same lens or lane from you, and you start asking those questions, they'll give you more objective answers that don't lead to results that isn't necessarily what you're looking for to achieve. You know what I mean? Yeah, sorry, technical difficulties there. But what I was really trying to hit home was that, like, you have all these mentors in different lanes. And I think the first mentors you have in life, if you're lucky enough to have great parents as I had, is your parents for the first couple of years of your life, and even still after that, of course, totally. Sort of give you the keys to life and how to be happy, how to succeed, you know, eat your broccoli, do the dishes, do your laundry, clean up after yourself, sort of like the regular things. Then he branches off to other things. But then I think it's important to look outside of that box of like the home or just like the friends and family, and really finding mentors that you necessarily have no idea what they look or sound like. You know what I mean? And then I think that once it starts, it's like a puzzle piece. And then once that's just like 60 puzzle pieces put down at once you find a great mentor, because you have a problem, you ask them a question, they ask you a better question back, and then you reflect on, you come back and ask them another question, they ask you an even bigger question, and just kind of keeps it going like that. It's not necessarily answers, just more questions, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I think, you know, your parents take you so far, right? Your parents, the influence from your parents takes you so far. And although there's going to be true realities in what they teach you, there's going to be a lot of false realities too, that they just don't know. And it depends on who your parents are. Like, you know, if your parents are like Bill Gates, you know, you might get a different financial, you know, influence from him, sure. Like around money and what money is and how to earn money, than like, you know, if your parents are just like scraping by or working like minimum wage jobs or something. So like it's okay. It doesn't matter who your parents are. It's not what it's about. It's about finding more people in your life to just kind of help you push the envelope a little further. Yeah. You know, you want to gain wisdom from as many people as you can. You don't want the influence from your parents to be the last, the last line. You want that to just like get you out and get you into the world. And then you want to go hunt and seek down, you know, all the skills you want to develop, and you want to find people that have those skills. But at the same time, I think it's important, because I always bring up anecdotes from my mom and my dad, where it's just like, my dad says, like, if there's a job worth doing, do it right. And it's just like, you can apply that to everything. Even like you get some new knowledge from your mentor and you apply it from like your building blocks that you learn from your parents. It just makes it a lot better. And it's just like, but then again, it's also great to meet some people that have different views than your parents or friends. You know what I mean? And start like peppering you with that. And you don't have to necessarily agree with any of them. It's just like, it's nice to have that conflict between opinion to see where your own opinions come up and flourish within that space, you know? Totally. And that's the whole idea. Like, you want, like, to put it bluntly, like, you want to accumulate as much information as you can so that you can make better decisions. Mm-hmm. And like, by information, I mean like different opinions about different things, about all areas of your life, so that when you make a decision according to you and what you value, that you've got enough information to make a really good decision. You can get as close to the truest form of reality as possible, and that's going to give you, you're going to maximize your results.
Yeah.
So, but how do you find a mentor? I'm like,
yeah, that's a great question.
Depends on what you're looking for. You want to find someone who's competent, like in the area of expertise. Like that's a big one. You don't want to learn from somebody that hasn't done it before, because that's kind of like that's silly. But find somebody that has what you want. Like if it's money, or if it's success, or if it's like songwriting, or if it's filmmaking, find someone who has the success and reach out to them. Like you can reach out to most people now. And whether I remember the first mentor I reached out to, I got his personal assistant, and like I dealt with his personal assistant for a while until I finally broke through to him. So like, what I'm saying is with social media and the internet, we can pretty much find and track down anybody and find some way to communicate with them or their organization and get through to them. So find the person you want to deal with. Don't ever assume that someone's going to give you something for free.
Yeah.
Because that's not fair.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect to give something for free to somebody you don't know.
Yeah.
And
it's also like, it's like free knowledge. Free knowledge isn't as necessarily as good as paid knowledge too, at the same way, like it comes from a different place, I think, each time.
Yeah, for sure. And to be honest, whether you wind up paying in the end or not, it's like, it differs. Like I have mentors that are like, no, I need, like it's $20,000 for my program.
Yeah.
But it's because they understand if you have no skin in the game, you're not going to be a success story for them.
Yeah.
So there's like that whole aspect too, which is fine, but you don't have to start there, right? But you can start by just being like, hey, I'm hungry, I'm motivated, I'd like to learn more about X, Y, and Z. Can I buy you a coffee? Can I pay you for your time for an hour or something over the phone, over Zoom, in a coffee shop? And can you just give me some tips on how I can improve my results?
Yeah.
And they're pretty specific. Their time's valuable. They want to be, they don't want people wasting their time. So they're going to give you 5 or 6 little nuggets to work on. And then you as the mentee, the most important thing you could do, go implement all the things they tell you. And then in 6 months, go give them the result.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, you know what? You told me to do this, and this. Go back to them. Say, I've done this. This was successful. I failed miserably at this. And this hasn't really worked out yet. Now where do I go? And they'll be like, okay, perfect. This guy's taken my advice.
Yeah.
He's done something. He's come back with a result, which is what you want. I'll give him another half an hour or an hour. And that's how it works. And then until, you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'd like to buy your time for more time.
Yeah.
Or you just leave it at that. And that's a mentorship.
Yeah. And I think also like, that failure part is key. Like as much as the success, like from like say they give you 6 things and you fail at 4 and you succeed at 2.
It's good.
I think the 4 things are more important than the 2 ones that you succeeded at. Because the ones you succeeded at, you probably are already naturally or some way systemically good at already.
Yeah.
But like you fail miserably at 4 things, it really humbles you and puts in perspective. Like this is where you need to put your time towards achieving better. And that's like from film. Like I fail at everything before, but then you don't have the building blocks unless you really eat shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
you learn more from failure.
Business too, right? Like you got to take some hits before you can, make some W's for sure.
For sure. And then, so that's kind of it. You got to go and act and you got to get results. And if you can have any mentor in the world, you can go to the craziest, most senior guy somewhere. And if you do it, like I said, you'll have the highest probability of getting through to someone. Go try to get the result. Say, look, just give me anything. Give me a nugget. Give me something to work at. I'll pay you for your time or whatever. And then go do the result. And 6 months, when you've got a result, even if it's a loss, doesn't matter. Go back and say, this is what I did. This is exactly what I did, step by step. This is where it failed. Can you help me? Can you just give me one other tidbit to keep moving forward?
Yeah.
And a mentor's like, yeah, okay.
This dude gets it, or this person gets it.
Yeah, like he's motivated.
Yeah.
Like, determination is not nothing. Like, maybe you don't have money, but determination is not nothing.
Yeah.
So you can work with that.
For sure, yeah. And it could just not necessarily be like advice or mentorship about financial things. You could, like for me, it's mainly just about like half of it's business, but a lot of I'd say a quarter of it's business, but a lot of it's just like finding my voice, getting to art, sort of. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So it doesn't necessarily always have to be from a financial backbone.
I have mentors in like health. like
sure.
in nutrition for me, like to tell me how to eat properly
Yeah.
because I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Like
shout out Adrian.
I have like, yeah. Shout out to Adrian. But he, he helps me with my physical health and stuff and helping me understand like more about my physical body and how it moves and how to like optimize energy. Cause like, again, your parents get you so far, but then you have false truths like, oh, I just need to eat like, like I just eat food. And like when you eat food, you get healthy. Like, well, no, there's more, like you can go more granular than that and you can, dive in. And so, you get experts in all area of life. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, grow in every way, and that's how mentors help you.
I love that. Grow in every way. I think there's a couple key things from this. Grow in every way. Find your mentors. To quote Werner Herzog, read. You ever see that bit from Werner Herzog? It's one of my favorite ones.
But quality or quantity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of garbage books.
That's true.
And everybody's an author today.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is trying to self-promote their bullshit and sell you something, which don't spend time reading that because you're not going to get information that's going to change your behavior.
Oh, yeah. Actually, to land this plane, let's hear some red flags about like... And in the lanes we talk about like mentorship, personal growth, and sort of just like literature that you can read to better yourself. What are some red flags to stay away from when getting into that space to like better yourself?
Yeah. Find people that have what you want when it comes to mentorship. That's it. Or they have the result that you want or the lifestyle you want. Find something, get clear on what it is that you're looking for and find someone that has that. That's how you find a mentor. When it comes to books, read old books. Read books, classic books. Read a lot of classic books. You don't need to read hundreds of thousands of books in your lifetime to gain the information to take your life to the next level. You need 5 or 10 books. And like you just have to read those classic books over and over and over because classic books have the intention of giving good, solid, well-structured philosophy and information that's going to help, that's just going to help you take things to the next level. So new books don't do a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
They're all about self-promotion. So stay away from anything that sounds fishy.
Fishy.
Self-promoting, fishy kind of crap. Stay away from that. That's not helping you.
Yeah, and then for me, I just know because like I see there's a lot of people on Instagram and TikTok like selling courses for filmmaking and stuff, and that's like again my perspective of it all. And for me, it's like stay away from the bells and whistles. Like if it's all flashy and very lipsticked and it's like just a big hook and then like you get hooked in and then you actually see what the information is and it's like you could get that somewhere for free or for whatever. Yeah. So I think it's just avoid a lot of the bells and whistles and the noise and the big lights and just the flashiness because it doesn't necessarily yield the best results or knowledge that you're learning.
No, exactly.
Right?
And listen, guys, like extraordinary things come from doing ordinary things for an extraordinary period of time. Like anybody that's trying to sell you something extraordinary, like in a short period of time, doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. You go to the gym and you do the sweetest leg day workout routine. You do it once, it's not extraordinary.
No.
It's ordinary.
Yeah.
You do it 600 days straight, that's extraordinary.
You just got tree trunks walking around and totally. And it shows. Yeah.
So anybody that's trying to sell you something crazy and in 30 days or 60 days, like just forget it. And it's not to say you can't learn something, but
it's also a good parallel where it's like you go to the gym for physical growth, you go through 600 days in a row. You're going to see that if you're eating right, whatever, you're going to see that. But it's like it's the same way. If you do something 600 days in a row and that's bettering yourself, it's going to just transcend everything you're doing and show. It's like the same way, physical and mental. It's like, it pairs the same, but it's just like physically you could see, but like the mental part's internalized. So it's just like, it just compartmentalizing yourself, but it acts the same way. It's the same success and everything, right?
Totally, yeah. What did they say? The inch is a cinch or whatever.
I don't know what
some say. But yeah, it's the 1% every day. That's 365% at the end of the year. Right? So
beautiful.
Do a little bit every day.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate you listening. Ciao.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And if you'd like to be notified of more episodes, please be sure to follow the Creative Island podcast now.
Want access to exclusive content, our community newsletter, live events, and so much more? Visit creativeisland.online today to join the Creative Island community.
See you at the top.